that I heard your
Mhm.
story, and I wanted you to share it with the viewers because um, it's different. It's from the opposite side of what I've been through in a man's perspective. So
Yes.
I want to welcome you, Darius, and thank you again for being a guest in my show. Can you just share a little bit about you?
um. Okay. Well. Uh. I guess we must share a little bit about myself, like I guess personal or like who I am, how we
Who is
met, whatever.
Darius? Who is Darius today? Because we're going to talk
Today.
about who he was in the past. So who is he
Okay.
today?
Okay. Darius today is a happily married man. Okay. Homeowner, uncle, big brother, older cousin. Unfortunately, lost my mom recently. So I'm still grieving from that. But I'm learning how to keep on treading in this world without the main woman in my life. So but I'm very, very thankful that my mom got to be a part of my wife's life. Brittany and my mother had a beautiful relationship, and because of Brittany, we call my mom Mama Bev because she gave her that name. Um, Outside of that, a typical 46-year-old, love watching football, enjoying the UFL right now, and like my occasional beer, and like my occasional whiskey. So, enjoy my Saturday.
There you
You
go.
know,
Enjoy your Saturday.
if I ain't
So
cooking on a grill or on a motorcycle, I'm watching football. I'm relaxed.
you're a happy married man that
Yes,
enjoys
very
sport
happy.
like every typical man and enjoys a
Right.
Saturday evening with a cup of wine or whiskey or all
Occasional
that.
beer every once in a while. Yes.
Okay.
Uh huh.
All right.
Hold on one second. Babe. Hold on, wait. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So, I'm gonna just dive right in here. So, I wanted
Okay.
to let people know, um, if you can share a little bit about your story, what you've been through in the past as far as an abusive relationship, because I
Okay.
think a lot of people, when we see the purple and
Hmm.
we say domestic violence or any type of abuse, we right away think of
Hmm.
a woman, right? We
Yeah.
never think of, we always say it's the man hitting a woman. We never stop
Right.
to think who is the victim.
Right. Right.
So, if you can tell us a little bit about what you've been through and, um, yeah, let's just start there. What have you been through that puts you
Okay.
in that category?
Okay. So I'm gonna start by saying to my last relationships kind of links together. I wouldn't appreciate my marriage as much as I do if I wouldn't have went through the toxic relationship that I went through. All right. It's like night and day. Okay. Um, how it started, like everything starts, it always starts small. So when me and my ex got together, we met, and I was already going through some stuff, and she seemed like the light of my life. I mean, and for a moment she was, uh, she was a makeup artist, so I didn't know much about makeup at the time, so I thought she was stunning. She looked good on paper, looked great on paper and whatnot. I thought that I would have the life that I have now with her, that I have with Brittany, which is interesting. Um, it starts off with like a simple argument, and then I realized, okay, maybe she's just a bit headstrong, or maybe she's a bit um, what's the word for it when someone speaks their mind all the time? Well, basically speaks their mind all the time.
Mhm.
Outspoken. Maybe she's a bit
Right.
outspoken.
Outspoken.
So, uh, but you notice, like, okay, you won't stop, you know, and all relationships can have healthy arguments, and I only like saying arguments. You can have disagreement, all right,
Disagreements, right?
but it has to stop. Like at some point, you leave that person alone. That person leave you alone. and y'all cool off, then you come back and talk about it later. Okay. If you continue to these badgering this person and you walk around the house and you're mumbling stuff and mumbling, not even like the mumbling under your voice, like loud mumble that you know that the person you're with is talking and you know that you're just making them more angry,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when things become unhealthy because there's no end to it. You know, there's it's just constantly back and forth, and at some point, somebody is going to break. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that is I mean that's not even a man woman thing. That is a relationship thing. If you're with somebody that is constantly arguing with you and constantly keep picking at you and constantly keep saying stuff and then know that you're already mad and you're just trying to cool off and they continue to say stuff, they're edging you on. And at some point, you're going to have to say, look, um, yeah, I can't do this because I'm going to go to jail because of you. And I told her that one morning. I said, I'm going to go to jail if I stay with
Mm-hmm.
you because I don't see a good ending to this. And it gets worse. So, like cancer will start off with one cell, and then next you know, you got a whole organ full of cancer and whatnot. That's how toxic relationships. That's how bad toxic relationships get.
Right.
You know?
I agree. I agree with you. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a way of having a disagreement and then having a disagreement that it becomes toxic. It's
Yes.
it's more of an argument opposed to a disagreement. And I
Yes.
completely agree with that. How did this affect your life, like your everyday life? Like when
Oh,
did you so being in this relationship, how did you what's the word I'm trying to find? How did you react in that relationship? Like how did you know that you in the midst of this arguing and back and forth that you were being abused?
one, I didn't know I was being abused.
Mhm.
Okay. I knew I was in a toxic relationship. I didn't know I was in a abusive. Well, I didn't realize I was abused until I got with Britt, and me and her mother was talking about how it ended, and she said you were in an abusive relationship. And I guess that me being a man, like men, we don't really think of ourselves being in an abusive relationship because I mean we're naturally stronger. And I'm sorry. And oh, no, uh, Britt's looking for the screen. Um, hold on a second. Please say that. Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got sidetracked. Um, what was the question again? I'm sorry. What was the question again, Marissa?
At this stage. At what point did you realize that you were being abused? Because
Okay.
it wasn't just the argumental part of it, right?
Right. Yeah. Again, I apologize. Um, yeah, I didn't know I was being abused because most men, we're naturally stronger. So, I always felt like I had the control of the relationship. And I mean, if it got too out of hand and, it's not like I can get like physically beaten, nothing like that.
Mhm.
Um, now, uh, I knew that it was toxic. Okay. I knew that it was very, very toxic. And, I used to tell her that I used to call her poisonous and whatnot, but yeah, I did not know that I was in an abusive relationship and towards the end. Now, how I dealt with it, with life, I found myself staying at work later. I mean, there was times I was doing 12-hour shifts at work, and we had a project at the time where we were replacing the laptops in my area. So
Mhm.
it was a overnight, or it was not overnight, but it was a after hours project that I was on. And I remember just working, gosh, I was working like 11, 12 hours, days, probably twice a week. I was doing an extra, I believe, 10 hours a week. And, it just kept me out of that house. Like, I did not want to go home, which is a very, very horrible feeling that you don't
Mm-hmm.
want anyone to feel, you know?
Right.
So that's one thing that I definitely remember. I would just be out, I would be at work. You know, I use that as an excuse to just be away from this person. When I went out, when I went away from, or when went away to go see my family's in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she would like just try to put a wedge in me and my family relationship. Now my mom was alive at the time, so I mean she would try to put a wedge between me and my mother's relationship, and that's a no go, of course. You know, I'm not one to even get in anyone's relationship. Now the ironic thing about the mother situation was she, I guess, hated my mother for whatever reason. Her mother loved me,
Mm-hmm.
but she used to lie to her mother, and I used to tell her like that's not good. Like if your mom goes today, like the last thing you would tell her is a lie. Like, you know, but
Right.
she didn't have a relationship with her. She didn't have a good relationship with her mother as well. She didn't have a good relationship with a lot of people around her, you know, and those were the red flags that I didn't see. So,
Obviously, yeah, because if I mean, everyone pretty much has a good relationship with their mom. Um,
hmm hmm
I mean, people value family.
hmm
So if you had red flags, like what was one of the incidents that you can remember and speak about as far as this one moment was your epiphany moment that you said, whoa, like I gotta go. It's
hmm
time for me to go.
well, oof, had a lot of those. Had a lot of those, and I stayed. So the okay. So the first red flag that I did ignore was the fact that her her ex husband was taking her to court for child abuse. All right.
Hmm.
Now, of course, you don't know the person. I didn't meet her kids at the time, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt because I had no choice but to.
Hmm.
So when I saw her interact with her son one day, it was like ah, she asked him for his phone, and he didn't give it to her. And she asked for him again, and he didn't give it to her. And she, yelled at this boy and pushed him. I was like, whoa. So now my mom gave me plenty of butt whoopings. All right. Plenty of butt whoopings. So I get that when you have a son, he becomes hard headed, soft ass equals a hard head equals a soft ass. So I wasn't too crazy about it, but I was like, that was a bit excessive, like again, I come from a single mother household, and yeah, I've gotten plenty of butt whoopings. Okay, I just think I did a bit more to deserve a butt whooping than just like, okay, I didn't hand her the phone, hand her my
Right.
phone. So, and then and my thing was, you could have asked me to intervene. Like I'm sitting right there, like I mean, I could have intervened without being abusive. Basically, what I'm trying to say. So that was a small red flag, but that was something that kind of opened my eyes. The biggest main flag was she would say that when she gets mad, she sees red. Okay. When a woman says that, I learned the hard way. That means she wants to see blood, apparently. Okay,
And
because
another way of saying you black out.
blacking out,
That's
right?
just, yeah, blacking out. Like you don't recall
hmm
what you're about to do or what's happening.
And you're not responsible for
And
your
you're not
actions.
exactly. And that's a scary thought. And that's a very
Very,
scary thought.
very.
So let me
So,
ask you this. So coming home in general, like having this relationship and coming home, and it's just constantly, like I heard you mention, you hated to go home because I completely relate to that.
mhm.
Home to me was my hell, and work was
Mm.
my safe haven, right? Because I
Yes,
did not want to come
yes,
home because I
yes.
knew that I was going to be walking on eggshells. I knew that
hmm
anything would trigger him, and it was going to be not a disagreement, but an argument.
Right. Yes,
So
yes.
as a man, because again, you're on the opposite side. How did you emotionally deal with that?
I mean, it's no different between men and women. I mean,
Mhm.
the situation is the same for both because you're safe, like you said, your safe haven is not your home. All right.
Right.
Your home becomes hell. You're walking in the house, you don't know what you're walking into. It's almost like home is a war zone.
Mhm.
And nobody, no man or woman wants to deal with that. Like
Right.
I mean it's a horrible, horrible feeling for either. Now, with me, because I love my job, I love what I do and I get paid good money for it. It was easier for me to stay at work later because I mean we had things to do and whatnot. So I was always say, "Oh, they got me doing it because I'm one of the best guys. I'm one of the best on the team.
Mhm.
So they got the best guy on the job." Well, in reality, it was me not wanting to come home
Right.
because I don't know what I'm coming home to. So
Right.
when your home is not your home, you almost feel like you're homeless or
Yeah,
you
so
living at the
I
job.
agree. I agree. So I have a question because I know I don't want to say this. I'm so used to talking to
Mhm.
women that it's like now I'm
That's
talking to
fine.
you. But
Hmm.
I know with me, I didn't say a lot. I didn't express a lot when I was in the moment because I knew it can escalate, right? And I'm learning, and honestly, I'm learning this year because I'm speaking more and more to men about domestic violence, and I'm realizing like, whoa, we as women, we can poke the bear. We know what
Yes.
buttons to press to just
Yes.
agitate that man, and
Yes.
it's not it doesn't make it right, but we do know how to poke the bear.
Yes.
And in your situation, she knew how to poke the bear.
Yes. Oh
And
yes.
um
Hmm.
and it's so strange that Brittany God calls you bear too. But anywho, anyway, um at any moment when you were in this situation, did you ever think I'm just gonna give her just one to calm her butt down?
So I'm from a family that does not play when it comes down to putting your hands on women. All right. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have uncles that I mean, it would jack me up if I ever thought about hitting a woman. All right.
Okay.
So I was raised, I mean, that was ingrained into me at a young age to never put your hands on a woman. So I never had a situation where I wanted to straight up hit her,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like because she knew that, she just kept pressing my buttons.
Right.
It's sad that you got so many women out here that's with a good man that's trying to make him an Ike Turner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, you know that he's not going to hit you. So you're going to continue to make him mad because you're mad. So let me just keep going at him and whatnot. So let me see if I can press his buttons because the moment he haul offs and cold cocks you, we're wrong. Okay. And
Exactly.
as a black man, I'm going to jail. Regardless, I'm going to jail. All right. I
Mm-hmm.
got way too much to lose to go to jail because you kept poking me. Okay. You just kept agitating me, whatever.
Right.
And was sad because the first thing people think when they see a domestic violence situation and you see a woman with a black eye, the first thing you think of is this man's abusive. This man don't need to. He don't need to be. He don't need his freedom. He needs to be locked up. Okay. He needs to
Right.
be in a cage. He's an animal. All right. But what you don't see is before the black eye, she kept messing with him. She kept talking to him. She kept agitating him and pissing him off or whatever. I had an incident where we had an argument, and I'm not lying because she did this to somebody else. We had an argument, and as I tried to leave the house, she blocked the door. She
Mm-hmm.
literally blocked the door, okay, and continued to yell at me. So I'm thinking, okay, now you are really trying to set me off. Like
Mm-hmm.
why? And I'm wrestling her to get past her and whatnot. She's like ripping my jacket. All right, and we're like in this tussle war for me to get out of the apartment. And at that time, I was living in a second floor apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly thought maybe I need to jump off the deck, off the porch or something. Like I need to get away from this. All right.
Right.
To the point where I locked myself in the second bedroom, called her mother, told her what was going on. Her mother was begging me, please, Darius, leave the house. I can't. Your daughter is blocking the door as she's yelling and cursing at me. So, um, yeah, you get tested. I mean, some men gets tested on a level that we never thought we would get tested in, simply because I feel like they know that this is an abusive man.
Right.
Let me see if I can make him abusive like I am, you know?
Right. Did you, at that moment, did you, like, besides reaching out to her mom, did you reach out to other got male friends and tell them, like, this is what I'm going through? And how did they respond to that?
I didn't reach out to any of my male friends, but I reached out to one of my female friends that I ride with. And I remember being on the porch, talking to her, and she was like, do you need to call the police? Do you need me to come over there? Like, you need to get out of the situation. Like, this is a horrible situation to be in. Like, you're basically getting kidnapped in your own household.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, thankfully, nobody had to come over. Eventually, it calmed down. Everything calmed down. Probably about maybe 45 minutes later, and I just remember feeling so exhausted. And that morning, that's when I told her, I need to leave you alone, because if I don't, I'm going to go to jail.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was speaking to a young man, and he didn't want me to mention his name, but I remember he was telling me he has 3 kids, and he was in an abusive relationship too, and he was raised not to hit a woman. The majority of the family was females, so the guys
right.
that were there were to protect the females, the
Yes.
family,
Mhm.
and the abuse was so consistent that at one point he also tried to leave. She blocked him from leaving, and he pushed her. And by pushing her, when she fell, when she landed on the ground, she did hurt herself, and she called the cops, and he ended up getting locked up.
Yes.
But he
Hmm.
went back. And I said, but why
Wow.
would you go back? And his
Wow.
response was, I was raised without a father, and I didn't want my children to be raised without a father. So he continued to take the abuse and not speak about it, not tell anyone. And because he didn't want to get locked up again if he pushed her off, he dealt with it for years like that,
Wow.
until they got to a point that, he was starting you get short tempered, and then he realized, like, I can't go to jail the second time. Like, I did it the first time, I can't go the second time. And he finally got a divorce, and he does what he needs to do for his kids, unfortunately. But you're right, at one point do you say enough is enough? Like, you got
Yes.
to remove yourself from that situation. You can't
Yeah.
do it anymore. And what's amazing to me is that I was reading, 1 out of 3 men that get abused, only one man will report it. Now, this is the shocking part to me,
Mm.
and I did call the county on this week, because I was, like, so bothered by the fact that I do volunteer at the county for domestic violence. I'm an advocate for the county. But one thing that stood out to me was, it's so quick to put a woman in a shelter, right? To
Yeah.
remove her out of that situation. But there is nothing for a man. Like, if you call in and say, I'm being abused, they may not take you serious.
Yeah.
They'll just
Yeah.
say, leave the house and take a walk or cool off.
Yeah.
And there's no way to place a man. So when I called during this week, they said, well, we'll put him in a hotel until he finds a home. But still, this man is not going to get any therapy. Like,
Mm.
they have programs for women to go into a shelter, and in that shelter, they have programs for her to help her get through it. There's lots of programs for women that go in with kids, but there isn't any for men. And the reason me, just my opinion, I think it's because men don't come out and speak about it and say, hey, I need to, I feel like because you're a man, that title, you have to tough it up, get tough about it and not just move on.
Right.
And I think men should be able to express, have feelings. If you guys want to cry, if you want to just, talk to somebody and say, hey, this is what's happening to me, and not get judged because the title of a man.
Right. Right. Your reason is very correct. Men don't come out and say that they're in a abusive relationship because one, I mean, it can be embarrassing, you know. I think the police don't really take it serious, not just because of the fact that we're men, but because we're the stronger of
Right.
the sex. So
Right.
when they say abuse, um, the first thing they think of is physical abuse. All right,
Exactly.
but
Mm-hmm.
abuse is different levels. You got emotional abuse, you got verbal abuse, you got spiritual
Exactly.
abuse. Right,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like majority of the females that are abusive starts off, well, not even females. I could just say in general, just people in general, starts off verbally abusive. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it trickles down to other levels where it could be, spiritual abuse. And then, the final level will be physical abuse. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So my relationship ended when we had an argument over something stupid. And she saw red, start throwing things at my face, bust my lip with whatever she threw at me. To this day, I don't know what she threw at me. Busted my lip, and I'm tasting my blood. Okay. This is in a guest bedroom. I went to the bathroom, and I'm spitting out blood. I closed the door, locked the door, and everything. And I hear her yelling, oh my God, oh my God. I didn't mean to do that. So it could have been my grandmother's voice. Somebody said, get out of that house. Okay. So I remember I just threw on my Ravens jersey. First thing I grabbed my keys in my car and left. All right. While in the car, I took a picture of my lip. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was busted on the inside and kind of on the outside as well. So I went to a friend of mine's house, a buddy of mine's house, and told him what happened. And I broke down, yo. Like, I mean, that was like the first time I really just broke down because I'm like, I am stuck in this house with this female Ike Turner, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that does not love me or respect me as a man. And if I stay in this situation, going to go to jail. So this going to have to end somehow. Like this,
Right.
I'm the one that's going to lose everything. So this have to end. Okay. So while I'm out with my homeboy, she gives me a call. She says, "Did you call the police on me?" And I said, "No, I didn't call the police on you." She said, "Are you sure? Because there's a police car in front of our apartment." And Marissa, let me tell you, if I can redo that day, I would have definitely called the police on the behind because
So her concern wasn't, are you okay? It
right,
was, did you call the police on me?
right, mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a police outside of her, and I
Right.
mean, I could have played it off like, yeah, I did, just a scare. Well, what I should have did was really call the police.
Right.
So I I was tripping over that for a little bit, calmed down. I came back to the house and I made a beeline straight to the bedroom. All right, closed the door. She came in the bedroom with a bag of ice and a rag and was like, "You should put this on your lips so it won't swell up." She like kind of threw it on the bed and walked out. I just threw it in the sink and I was just like, you know what? I gotta get out of here.
Right.
So while she was asleep that night, I grabbed my stuff, got packed up and everything, grabbed my laptop, and went to my mother's house in Virginia. Okay, stayed there. This was right around 4th of July. So this was like July 1st, maybe. All right. And I believe it was on a Monday when this happened. Because I will always tell her, I said, when are you going to wake up and I'm not going to be here? And that's exactly what I plan on doing. So I grabbed myself, I left. And while I was at my mother's house, I think I stayed there for 2 days. Okay. I came back home. And before I came home, I went to the police station. I said, I want to file I want to just file a report on what happened.
Right.
And, just so that there's something there. Okay. So I showed him the picture of my lip that I took, and I showed him my lip that was in the condition it was at the time. Of course, your inner lip heals faster, so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't bloody, but it was mainly bruised. And of course, it was physical evidence that I've been abused. But they
Right.
were like, well, because it happened 3 days ago, nothing we can really do about it. Uh, you should have called us that day, and maybe something could have been done. So the other part of me that didn't want to call the police was her family is in Georgia. Okay, she don't have any family up here. Well, she has a sister up here in Fredericksburg that she did not talk to. All right,
Right.
if I'd have locked her up, her mom would have had to come all the way from Georgia to get her out. It
You
would have
didn't
been
want
a
to
whole
inconvenience
hassle.
her family.
Right. What I'm saying? I didn't want to be that guy to her
Right.
mother. All right. And that's the only thing that kept me from doing what I should have did, you know. Um, but I afterwards, when I talked to the police officer, and of course, hindsight's 2020. When I saw how everything went down, I completely regret it because people don't learn. People
Mm-hmm.
do not learn until they actually deal with consequences.
Right.
So, like you said, most men don't report it. Most men don't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Most men endure it because you feel like you're in a stuck situation where this woman at any time have your freedom dangling by a string,
Right.
you know? And it's really not like that. It's really not like that because, we do have help out there. We do have support and everything. Now, one of the things I thought that was hilarious was I took the picture that I took of my lip. I posted it on Facebook. And oh my God, the responses that came. I mean, I have two sisters that are in security that have
Mhm.
CDLs that are packing. All right.
Right.
Out of my siblings, I'm the one that don't have a gun. They do. All right.
Right.
They were posting pictures like, where's the bitch at? Like, I got something for you. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came back home, I thought at the police station, of course, she's panicking, like, "Oh, your family talking about shooting me and whatnot." Yeah, yeah. You made their brother bleed. So I mean, of course, they want you to bleed too. So,
Right.
but the victimness that she put herself in, I thought was hilarious
Right.
because you are the abuser, and now you want to be the victim.
The victim. Exactly. And that's what they do.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
they know how to turn it around to make you look like the bad person. Um,
Yes.
and I've learned through the years that's also called a narcissist.
Very much.
And
Thank
I
you
didn't
very much.
know that,
Hmm.
as I've grown older, I never knew what the word narcissist was. And when I started,
Hmm.
someone had told me about it. I'm like, I've never even heard of that word. So I started Googling and researching. I'm like, oh my God, like I was dating a narcissist and I didn't even know it.
Hmm.
Because it's amazing how anything, a disagreement can be misconstrued and then you're the bad person. Like they're the
Yes.
one at fault, but somehow it gets turned around to become your fault. And
Yes.
then you're doubting yourself, like,
Am I
you're
crazy?
crazy. You're like, wait a minute, maybe it was me. And then I would find myself apologizing, like, well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, done this way. I probably should have done it the way you said. And it just
Hmm.
like, then when I would go to sleep, I'm like, I would run it by my head again. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, how did this get twisted up?
Jedi
But it's,
mind trick.
uh, but we're going to fast forward.
Mhm.
because this I can go on and on with you.
Oh
But
no,
you
it's
mentioned
fine.
that you're happily married.
Yes.
So my
Yeah.
question is, with all that trauma that you've been through, right? Because it does change our personality. It does change the way we think because of that incident. And
Hmm.
sometimes without realizing it, we bring it into a new relationship. And it takes
Yes.
a strong person to really point things out to us and have patience with us, right?
Right.
Because I'm going to speak on my behalf. I know that for me, it's like I'm single now, but in my past relationships, I can say I probably jeopardized them because of my insecurities.
Yes.
And they may have been doing something or may not have been doing something, but because of my past, I would bring it to my present and be like, well, I called you, you never answered, and were you with somebody else? And maybe they were just with didn't hear my phone call, or they were busy to answer my phone call. Now at this present moment that you are married, is there any things that you felt that your wife, I don't want to say wife, Brittany, had to deal with to better your relationship and make it a better foundation? Because a relationship starts with a good solid foundation. So I don't want to assume that the foundation when you guys started was strong, or was it not strong, or was it some little cracks in there that it took time to remix that foundation to make it a solid foundation?
Well, first off, I'm gonna say the first thing I had to do was check myself. All right. When me and Britt got together, uh, I didn't realize I was so fast to argue. Like I became very
Mm-hmm.
argumentative. I had a short fuse because I was so used to things going left so fast.
Right.
Um, we had one incident that well, I got mad at her about something, and she said, "Darius, what you're saying to me is what you should have said to her." Okay,
Mm,
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you because, you know, you might not be mad at me. You're probably mad at her. Okay,
right.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm not gonna yell back at you. This is not what I do. So now this is me paraphrasing it. So I went to the mirror, looked at myself, looked at the man in the mirror, and said,
Mm,
"Am I going to allow baggage from my last relationship to ruin this one?" Okay. Now, when my last relationship ended, I did not like lose faith. I didn't sit here and hate sisters and denounce black women. None of that. None of that.
mhm.
I did the very opposite. I said, out of what I went through, I know that there's a wife for me. I told God, I said, no, I know you have a wife for me. I changed my prayer. I said, Lord, just get me ready for her. Because at this point, I done been through so much that I don't think there's anything else for me to go through. Like
Right.
if I need to learn the lessons I need to learn, I had learned them by that time. Okay, like there can't be nothing else
Right.
besides me getting shot and going to jail because of a woman that I needed to learn. So me and Britt met. Uh, it was such a breath of fresh air, and I wasn't really ready. I wasn't ready initially, so I had to check myself, like I said, and
Mhm.
I mean, even that brief, 4 months of dating that's for a whole nother show. Oh my God,
Right.
the dating world. But when I met Britt, it was a breath of fresh air. She was somebody that was in the church like I was, family oriented like I was, gainfully employed like I was. She didn't have any
Mhm.
kids. Like she was just a younger version of myself.
Right.
Very outgoing, very sweet, very friendly. Just beautiful person inside and out. So yeah, I had to look at myself in the mirror and
And that's
said,
important. And that's important to
yes,
check yourself.
yes,
Anytime like you get out of a bad situation, a bad relationship, it doesn't I always say we don't always keep it in a negative form. Learn something from that past relationship
yes,
to
yes,
improve yourself for the next relationship, because you don't know what God has for you.
right,
And the things that we've been through in life, some people say, oh, it has made me who I am. Well, yeah and no. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here because some
Hmm.
people from the past relationship can become really hostile and
Right.
more worse than what they were before. So I,
Yeah.
like you said, really check yourself. You
Right.
know, point out this is what's wrong with me. This is, I could improve in this. I can change this to better myself because you're not doing it for that other person. You're really doing it for yourself.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
bettering yourself. So I'm glad you said that, you had to check yourself. And sometimes we do need to check ourselves from
Yes.
time to time to be like, why is this not working out for me? Change the
Hmm.
routine, change something up, better yourself, get the help.
Yes. Yes. You know, one thing about us men that I've noticed these last few months, like I said, I lost my mother the end of January of this year. One thing I've been looking at is how we deal with things.
Hmm.
And us black men, we really do swallow a lot. I did a class, and we was just talking about just the stress level that black men go through from the time we wake up to the time we go back to sleep, and the things that we deal with. And then we get to the point where it's like, okay, we really shouldn't express how we feel. Like, it's like, man, why you crying? Why you worried about her, man? Let's go to the strip club. Let's meet somebody else. You
Hmm.
know, we're real fast to just push it to the side and say, oh man, you gotta deal with that, man. Let's just move on.
Right.
Well, things become very toxic when you don't deal with it. So, um, since my mom passed, I've been noticing. I mean, maybe it's the age that I am. We're getting close to 50. So, you're gonna lose your people gonna lose your parents. Your friends gonna lose their parents and whatnot. So,
Right.
I seen a couple people. I know a couple people that lost either mother or father. So I talked to some of the guys, and talking about the situation, they're like, "Oh, I'm trying to make sure that my mom is good and my sister is good, and this, that, and the third, and trying to make sure that I can go to work and whatnot, and doing they talking about everything about themselves. And there's times I'm like, hold up, bro, hold up, how are you doing? You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
That's the real question.
Like, that's a real question. Like, let's stop worrying about everyone else. Let's just take a time and talk about you. So I got one homeboy of mine that he lost his father in November, and me and him call each other and check up on each other. And it's a solely like, how are you doing? How are you coping with this? How are
Mhm.
you dealing with this? How is it affecting your life? And we check in on each other and have a real conversation.
Mhm.
Men don't do that. Black men, we don't do that, and we need
Right.
to start.
And
So
that's important for you guys to be able to express yourselves. Like if you're not having a
mhm,
good day, call one of your homeboys and be like, "I'm not having a good day." If and I
right,
think it's also our culture because we are taught to just keep things to ourselves because the public, the outside don't need to know our business.
right,
And
right,
that's the worst thing that we can do because we should be able to speak if we're in a bad relationship, go to call somebody and be like, hey, I'm going through this, like, what do
right.
you recommend if you don't know what to do, like in your incident, with all that going on, or you lost your mom, you should be able to call somebody and say, you know what, I'm just, today is not a good day, and
Yeah,
be able to break down because you're human regardless.
right.
You're a human being, you're going to have emotions, you're going to have, you're going to break down emotionally, and it's okay. I don't think we should be able to keep that inside of us because, like you said, it's like an infection. It will grow and grow until the point that
Yes,
you really lose control, and then now you're in a different category.
yes. And I think that plays into the situation you were saying earlier about the guy who endured a abusive relationship. And it's just like we do everything for everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
There's many, many, many deaths or cases where you'll hear about a man that just dies of a heart attack, or he just
Hmm.
don't wake up one day. And a lot of black men, we're dying before 60 or dying at 60. That's an extremely young age to die at.
Hmm.
And um, I just hope that we learn to self care. Put put value into self-care and not just I'm going to DR, going to Miami. No,
Mhm.
bro. Really
Face it.
process what you're going through.
Right.
Let's process what
Process
you're
it.
going through.
Yeah. Let's
You
now
know,
move on to the next relationship to get over the past
period
relationship.
point.
Take time
Right.
to heal yourself, evaluate yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and say, how can I improve myself for that
Yes.
woman that is going to come, whenever she comes?
Right.
Because, I mean, like you said, you had to evaluate yourself being in a relationship with Brittany. And I'm sure
Yeah.
she had to be strong and also be patient with you.
She was. She was very patient. Brittany was. She was so patient with me, and I'm so thankful because I mean, even when I bought the house, we had an argument in the house one day, and I mean, so I've learned one thing. I've learned, especially being a married man, is not what you say, is how you say it. You know,
Absolutely. Mhm.
and I had to learn that. So, and it takes time. It takes time. It's not something you're going to get overnight.
Mhm.
Uh, One day, Brittany did something that was just it was just bonehead. I'm not gonna get into the details, but it was a bonehead thing she did. Okay, and I guess my expression was, "Why would you do that? Why did you do that? Like that's just
Right.
dumb." And she got mad, stormed upstairs. I was like, "I did this." So, um, so now working from home and everything. So I went to my desk and everything in my room. I thought about it, and I was like, "That's how I said it, man." So I saw her downstairs in the kitchen again, and I said, "Babe, uh, is it what is it how I say things?" And she said, "Yes, you were very abrasive. You didn't have to have that
Absolutely.
tone with me. I knew I was wrong for doing what I did, but you didn't have to come to me like that." And I
Right.
said, "You know what, baby, I'm sorry." And
And you're right.
I've learned to take a moment, take a breath. Don't say out of anger. Do not talk out of anger. Don't. How can I say this? Don't react off your first initial
Feeling
expression.
expressions. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Take a moment to yourself and think
Absolutely.
about it. Calm down first.
Mhm.
Is it really this serious?
Yeah.
Should I really be this mad? So the change was uh a few weeks ago. Brittany was doing something, and she ended up breaking my drone. All right, and I was sitting in the living room playing Madden, playing PlayStation, and she was like, "Oh my God, babe, I broke your drone," and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, it's okay, it's cool." And I kept playing the video game,
Mhm. She probably was like,
so she was no, she was so worried, okay, that she's like, "I'm gonna buy you another one," and I'm like, "Okay." So I found one that was like $40, and I sent it to her. She bought it. I said, "Okay, all right, cool." And she was like, "You don't really seem that upset." I'm like, "Hey, the drone was like $20." I didn't even
right.
fly it. Like, then it's a drone. Like, why would I get mad about that?
Right.
Actions happen.
Yeah.
So you know, um,
But you're right.
but
It's
yeah,
the delivery. It's the delivery. Like
yes,
you can get so much further in a discussion instead of just blowing up and just sitting
right,
saying, give yourself that time to cool off if you're just that upset and go talk to your partner, and just say, what, I
right,
didn't really like the way you said this because it made me feel this way.
exactly, right,
Instead of saying, "Oh my God, why are you?" It's just like now you guys are just on top of each other and no
uh-huh.
one's hearing each other.
Everybody got their fists up,
Right.
okay, and
So,
nobody is receiving. Everyone's
exactly.
on defense. That's what it
Exactly.
is.
Yeah.
Everyone ears closed up and your mouths open up,
Right.
and you're not gonna get anywhere with that.
Right.
So those are the things in life that I feel like you have to learn, especially when you're in a marriage,
Mhm.
because not to sound cliche, but marriage is gonna always have its challenges. All right, we're gonna all have our challenges in a marriage. Even the most perfect marriage is not perfect, right? We're gonna have
Right.
your ups and downs. Um, People might not believe it, but me and Britt we've had disagreements. I wouldn't say arguments, but we've had a bad weekend twice so far in our relationship in our marriage. When I had to just like give her space. But you're gonna have them things,
You're
and
gonna have
then
ups and downs, and you learn
you're
from
gonna
them
have ups and
too.
downs. You learn. Then
Right.
in the last bad weekend we had, it was because of what we were going through. And after a day or two, I would listen to what she was saying. I was trying to vibe with while she was saying some things she was saying. I'm like, it's not me, it's what we're going through, and
Right.
that's exactly what it was. So
And that's good
yeah,
that you acknowledge that. Like it's not us. It's the
right,
situation that we're in at the moment.
yes, yep,
And
hmm
that's a good thing that you were able, like, from listening to you from back then to now, it's like you have shown a lot of growth
yeah, oh
because
yeah,
you're
definitely,
stepping back now and you're analyzing the situation and you're able to, like, okay, let me now, come forward. But
right.
so I commend you for that. I do commend you
Thank
for
you,
that. And I think a
thank
lot
you.
of men need to do that as well. And not just men. I don't want to say men. Me as women, we need to learn that too. We need to step back and be like, okay, he had a bad day at work. It's not me. It's he
Right,
had a bad day at work. Let me just, make it a little easier for him now that he is home. Let me make it pleasant for him. Let me make it, let me just chill with him for a second, give him a different atmosphere than that intensity at work. So we
yeah,
also, it's a give and take situation.
very much, yes.
Yeah.
But it's also his responsibility to tell you, baby, I had a bad day at work. Can you give me a
Right.
moment?
Right.
I can't just
And
walk
again,
in
it's
and take a
communicate.
burn.
It's communicating.
Yep, back and forth.
It's
hmm
communicating. Yeah. So you
Yes,
have to have a good communication with your partner, because we can't always guess what our partner is going through.
exactly, exactly.
So again, we have to have that communication.
hmm Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest thing about my story is, I got married at 42, and we got married during COVID, of course. Um, I wish that I would have met Brittany at a younger age, but I'm very thankful that I met her when I was ready for her. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, like you said, learn your lessons. If you don't learn the lessons, you're bound to repeat them. And
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to check yourself. You
Right.
know, Abusive relationships would never get better. Would never get better. You put time into those relationships, and all it is a waste of time. It's a hard lesson that is like beating you in your head, sometimes literally. Okay, and it just takes for you to listen and walk away. There are better
Right.
people out here for you.
Absolutely.
I am thankful. You know that things went like it did. The movie um, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. She said it wasn't for such an abusive relationship, she wouldn't know what a good one feels like.
Absolutely.
I'm living proof of that. I'm
Yeah.
living proof of that.
I'm still waiting
So
for that good relationship, Darius. I'm still waiting.
he's coming.
And I'm
Trust
gonna
me.
wait patiently
Yes.
because I needed to work in myself to be the better version Maritza. So when he comes along,
Yes.
he's gonna get the best of Maritza.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
and I'm waiting patiently for God to send him to me. So
Yeah, and then, like I said, just offer your prayer and know that he's there. Okay, he's
absolutely,
there, and he's probably praying for you too. But the
absolutely,
biggest thing is knowing, the first step to loving somebody is loving yourself.
yourself and finding your
If
worth and knowing how you
yes,
want to be treated.
exactly, yes, exactly. Before Britt and before my last relationship, I was that guy that was like, "Oh man, I take care of my wife. I take care of everything. She ain't gotta
Right.
have a job, nothing like that. Man, I got it. Ooh, I learned the long hard way. Life does not work like that. Okay, one, everyone don't reserve that part of you.
Right.
Two, we live in a very inflated economy. All right, we both need to have a job. But thirdly, I need you to be able to take care of yourself if something happened to me. Okay,
Exactly.
like that is very important. So I've learned my lessons from my 30s to my 40s. A lot of hard lessons, and it's just interesting because I feel like life, if it didn't hit you by 30 something, then I don't know I don't know what world you live in.
Right.
A lot of us go through something major by that time.
Hmm.
People are either going through abuse or been divorced or, had kids, became single parents, things like that.
Right.
I always feel like if you don't learn a lesson, you don't want to be, the old man, the old woman in the club still doing this 20-year-old mess at 60. Okay.
I agree. I agree. Life is a lesson that we all need to learn. We all have different challenges. We all face different obstacles, but the
Yes.
main part of it is what you learn from it.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I mean, we all have to learn something from what we've been through in our past, and it doesn't define who we are because our
Mhm.
past is just a lesson and something
Yes.
that we had to go through. And clearly, you had to go through what you had to go through to be the better version for Brittany and what
Yes.
Brittany needs. So I congratulate you guys for a successful marriage. And
Thank
again,
you. Thank you.
I am so thankful for you to come on and be my guest and just be very transparent with what you've gone through. If you can leave one message for the men to close out, what would you tell the men?
Pull your ego to the side. Pull that ego to the side and do what you need to do for yourself. Stop worrying about what others think and focus on what you need. Because if you are in a bad situation or you put yourself in a bad situation, you're going to have to deal with it yourself.
Right. Very true. And put
Yeah.
yourself first. I think that's for either female and male. Just put yourself first and everything you do to be a better version of yourself.
Yes. Yep.
And and like you said, love yourself enough and find your worth. Know
Yes.
what
Very
you're worth
much.
so you can be in a healthy relationship.
Yep. Yep.
So, but
We'll all
Darius,
get
thank
there.
you so much for being a guest in my podcast. And if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate in inboxing me, and I will definitely give it to Darius so he can answer those questions because I'm not going to be able to answer those questions. But there is help out there. Um,
Yes.
I'm hoping that in the coming future, there's more opportunities and more programs for men to go to for help. And also, I want the men to also realize, like, speak about it.
Yeah.
Talk to your
Exactly.
homeboy about it or, your homegirl about it. Let them know what you're going through. Just don't keep it inside. Be able learn to express your feelings and emotions and not be ashamed of them.
Right.
Be
Right.
ashamed of them. So, I appreciate it, Darius.
Thank you,
And thank you
Marissa.
again. Take care.
You
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.